Sorry.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so, but where are you? You're living in Paris still?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. How do you like it? Is it nice?
Yeah, I've been living here for, it's 7 years now. It sort of started a bit by accident, but I got used to it very fast. It's big and it's close to Belgium.
Yeah, okay. Where did you live in Belgium? Did you live in Brussels or in a smaller town?
I'm from a small town, and then I studied in Ghent. I don't know if you know Ghent.
Yeah. I do.
Good for illustration and very nice.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So you got into comics as a kid in Belgium?
Oh yeah, I always drew comics from the moment I put lines on paper. I think, like a lot of children, maybe they start and then they stop. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, lots of people
just didn't stop. Yeah.
Wow, cool. But what did you? I mean, did you read? Because your comics right now, they look like really different from most of the stuff that's out there or that's been out there. They're very different. They seem to be more like like paintings or they remind you of medieval art and stuff like that. So I was actually interested whether you read like the same comics we all did when we were kids.
I think a lot of them, no? Like Tintin, I did read that. Then there were a lot of Belgian comics that I don't know if they get to Slovenia. I guess not. Like Kiekaboo and Urbanus and things like this. We had a lot of big series that used to make money then. I think. Even that is getting harder now. Yeah.
Okay, but I think
alternative comics and commercial comics are starting to get closer and closer to each other, and in the middle or meet each other below. It's not.
Yeah. But it's good. I actually like that they're sort of like getting together, like the commercial and the super artsy stuff.
It's very egalitarian. Comics are getting very equal.
Perfect. So I was looking, like most of the stuff that I knew from you was like Panther and the making of and the stuff that was translated into English. But now I found also like this, your first comic, published comic ever was this sort of Alice in Wonderland coming of age wordless thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there were even earlier comics and if you don't know about them, it's because I never want to talk about them. I got published very young. It was almost a misunderstanding, as if I got accidentally published. There were in Belgium. There is a guild of comic artists, like as if they are a medieval guild, and they meet once a year to eat. And then one year they decided to organize a prize, and it was gonna be every 2 years. And you send a few pages, and if you win, if your project is chosen, you get published on 4,000. Yes, but they forgot to tell anyone except for a comic forum where I was on. So only 5 people participated, and of these, I won.
Perfect.
And so I won what it was called the debut prize. And then journalists thought that my book that accidentally got published was the best debut. So, because there was another confusion, and so I got interviews because they thought this is the best newcomer, but no, it was the name of the prize.
Okay, but that push actually like did stuff for you. You could actually like get off on that push a little bit.
Yes, that took me on the first step, and I'm gonna look if I have this comic here. Oh, there you go. Perfect. So I'm not gonna show it for too long because.
Okay. Wow, like really, yeah, that looks like
a comic.
A comic, yeah, exactly.
It's just one joke that takes 30 pages, basically.
Okay, with an alien, I can see, huh?
Yes.
But very different. How did you develop this style that's very like with watercolors and with this came later, or I mean, you found that this was more.
Well, the stuff I used to color this bad comic with is already basically the same material. So it's a lot of. I drew with Ecoline a long time, and I still draw with color inks like this. So This is colored with the same stuff I used to draw directly.
The colorings, by talents, the Ecoline. Okay.
But then I went to art school and I had to learn how to make beautiful things. And for a long time I did not agree with my teachers what beautiful meant, and I slowly started to see what was really beautiful or interesting, or the real possibilities of what really stuck in the mind. I think in the beginning I didn't see why I should know how to draw differently from a professional cartoonist, a professional comic artist, but they really start making me curious about what is textures and lines and shapes really can do. And I can show you a sketchbook if you like, in which
that'd be great. This is what I like about Skype interviews.
Yes, I got all my stuff.
Yeah. You're in the artist studio. That's perfect.
So in the last year of art school, I had sort of the scenario in my mind for what became the wrong place. And but first I was drawing like this.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm showing that right.
Yeah, we can see it really well.
That was pretty much how I drew the Alice in Wonderland that you mentioned. But then I start experimenting. Am I going to do something special with the text balloons, or starting to maybe I should move along the side here. I start to do random stuff, and it starts to come. This is already starting to look like a bit
and this is
like the comic book, but this is the early stages. Because I had a teacher, I showed her a drawing and she told me, so this is okay, but do you really want to draw like this until you're 100 years old? Look, she pointed to the drawing and she said, this stone wall looks as if it's made of the same plastic as this naked man and this car. It all looks, there's no feeling of different objects with different personalities in it. So that's why I started to mix this stuff.
Perfect. Yeah, because now, but it's a very distinct style. Like the stuff that you've been making since the wrong place seems to be very much like in a particular direction. It's very,
Yeah, sometimes it starts getting a bit more precise, and sometimes it gets more brutal again. It's I think it's like as if with the drawing style, it's as if when I was a boy, I had just a little island in my drawing style universe, and then maybe I get a second island, a third island, like different styles. I try to stop using the word style because I think it's an unproductive word. And then I reunited these islands to a little archipelago, and then that is the wrong place. Maybe it becomes like something that can hold a lot of different styles, because if I want in my style, I can draw something with contours, and I can draw something like just paint thrown on. And ever since, it's like this country is expanding and expanding. I'm never changing my style in the way that would be moving to another country or something. It's just like Napoleon. It gets bigger and I come.
No, it's great. I love this combination, because like in the early stuff, you just have the contours and then the coloring, and this is now it's a combination of painting and.
Yes.
You were mentioning that you like. I was reading an interview before just now, and you were mentioning like lots of like medieval masters, like Bruegel and people like that. And I actually get reminded of Hieronymus Bosch a lot of the time. Because like these intricate sort of like hell paradise scenarios through which tiny figures wander and get lost and so on.
Yes, I don't know, but this. it's a bit megalomaniac art, I think. No, like
Yeah,
you make a really big landscape which you fill with thousands of people, and you, and you are the god looking from far upon it.
Exactly. And trying to fit like a whole world into your book, you know?
Yeah.
Like having a book like something that somebody can inhabit, can walk through, can, you know?
Yeah, thank you. That's important to me. This feeling of I'm not just looking at wallpaper or toilet paper. That it's a whole universe. It's not just someone doing their job while drawing, but someone who, if you feel like for the person drawing it, there are even more spaces that you haven't seen, that he didn't have the time to draw, but that he knows are there, and that you might be able to suppose are there, or imagine.
Exactly.
Being able to walk around in a book. My latest one is, I think, the most extreme version of this. It will be called The City of Belgium in English.
Yeah, I saw that. That's not out yet in English, huh?
No, it should be this. I can show a French one maybe.
Uh-huh.
I have the Dutch one here. So it's the biggest one.
Uh-huh. It's also a bigger format. Yeah.
Yes, and it's the craziest one, perhaps graphically, or it's the it's a bit of a mastodont of a book. And it's, I think the mission of really having it's not really pocket sized anymore. It got pretty heavy, but have this portable world is very much part of the mission of this book, I think.
Perfect. Yeah, I think this was what I read today. I haven't seen this book yet, but I was just reading today that you have like several characters that you follow that wander through this undefined city, go to parties and so on. That sounds really great, yeah. Is it connected to, like, because I read a little bit of The Wrong Place, and that seems like a similar sort of, although that sounds more like The Great Gatsby, while this is broader, you know?
Yeah. It's The Wrong Place was the beginning of my 20s, and that book is the end of the 20s. And I think when I started writing the story, I felt like, well, it's going to be about the city. And then once it's about the city, why not the same city as where The Wrong Place took place? Why not make some characters come back in the background? Why not connect these two books? Maybe not narratively, but at least so you have the feeling that you could walk from one book into the next.
Yeah.
And so on some pages I made that very explicit by almost redoing the exact composition of an old drawing. Like this one, for example, this is in the new book, but there's almost exactly the same page in the old one, but the sense of it is quite different. The tone of the book is quite different. I think you said The Great Gatsby about The Wrong Place.
Yeah.
The Wrong Place is a book where everybody is obsessed with the same person.
Yeah.
And in the new book, the world is more vast, and a lot of people are obsessed with a lot of very different things. It doesn't have the teenage angst, which is you're in high school and there's one popular guy. There's more 20s angst, where why I'm taking all these drugs, why are they not working anymore? Why?
Yeah, and the world is like a wide place with lots of different channels and possibilities and everything. Yeah, perfect. And yeah, the one other book that we still have that we could get by you is The Making of, which seemed like very different from your other books. It's less expansive. It's less like even in Panther you get lost in this whole world, whereas this one seems more also in tone more satirical and more What was the reason for doing that one? I mean, were you sort of like trying to do a satire on the art world in Belgium? Were you annoyed with the scene, or?
No, it's the big difference with the other ones is that it's when I think of my books, I seem to automatically think of the place first. And so this is a countryside book, and the elements in the making of that are important are almost little tools and objects, and or a little sculpture. Well, they are building a huge garden gnome, so it's almost as if I'm taking a big shit on the countryside. But no, it's the main character is taking sort of a shit on the countryside, I think. Although the very first version of the script for this book was maybe more ridiculing the characters more, and then you start loving them. Or understanding them, loving them. Both of these things are maybe probably happening at the same time, and then you want to give them another arc or another kind of importance. And so maybe it started out as something satirical. It was a mix of a good friend of mine, the illustrator Brecht van der Broeke. He told me about a day he spent at a very amateuristic art festival, which was organized by Boy Scouts, it seemed like. And it was hilarious the way he told about this, like the way they came with a ball of Isomo and said, you can paint on this or you can paint on this. It was that was just very funny. And then at the same time, I had this dream where I was doing some kind of mysterious project in the countryside and everything was secret and hidden behind black drapes, and there was something a bit Wes Anderson like, little maybe miniature cities, and so I started to feel this vibe around it, that the countryside mystique, maybe.
Yeah, it's an interesting book as well. Perfect.
I still like it a lot. I think it catches the eye less than the other ones. I wonder if it is because there are less primary colors. I think there's less red, blue, and yellow. And there's a lot of pink and green, it seems, in the making of, and
more like flesh and grass.
Yeah, and there's a lot of action in the way of people doing things with their hands, and this has to be shown clearly. So there's less space to make these big show Hieronymus Bosch megalomaniac images. There's a lot of intimate action, and I think that's why it seems less ostentatious, but maybe it just hang around in the mind a long time, I think, maybe.
I especially I felt that your style sort of it looks really good, like with cities, where you can have like lots of different like little neon stuff and so on, or in interiors where you have the drapes and the wallpaper and everything. And here where it's outside, it's very simplified, and then it's less catchy, but it works great.
Yeah, it's intimate. I think the making of is more has a feeling of where I was born, also, like the first 18 years, a small town, and people's private gardens and things like this.
Okay. Oh, I was gonna ask you, then I'm gonna move on to the Panther, because I really wanna hear you say something about that. But I was gonna ask you how do you go about making a comic? How do you write the script, and because it seems very open, So I was wondering whether you do like a detailed storyboard and then stick to it, or do you experiment a lot, or do you just like write down the basic arc that you want to do and then just start working?
It's been different. It's been different almost every time. The wrong place, I had the basic arc and just started drawing. Also because it was my final project at illustration school, so I had to start making drawings anyway. So there was no sense, no storyboard. I just had the big lines in my head, and then I wrote part of it, wrote a scene, maybe a chapter. And then I drew what I had written. And the making of, this was after school. I wanted to have a whole storyboard. So I made there you go. So I made one. I had the whole storyboard before I did the book.
Ah, okay.
It was just pieces of paper like this. I don't even know if it's in the real order anymore, but drawn very basically.
Oh yeah, interesting. It's drawn just with the line. Perfect.
But then when I started executing this storyboard, at some point I had finished half the pages, and I don't know how it was possible because I had a storyboard, but there was no tension arc. I still had to rewrite and dump pages and do it. It didn't work at all like I thought.
Yeah. I think it also happens, because you tire it out. You're working it over the thing that you already poured your creative energy in, and then you just have to make an extra leap for it to come alive. I had that feeling sometimes when working.
Yeah, I'm wondering because in what I'm writing now, I am again working with a very detailed storyboard. And why do I do it if I had such a bad experience with it 9 years ago? I don't know. Well, it was not a bad experience, I think, but I don't. It doesn't do it all. It doesn't. It's not enough, or it's you still have to stay awake, I guess, when you start executing it.
But it's still a really good part of the process. It solves some questions.
Yeah, I guess so. Yes. Panther is a different book from the rest in the way of writing. It's a very simple book, you know. It's smaller than the other ones. It's the concept is very clear, and most of the time it's two characters, and there's a definite, very clear vibe. So Panther, I wrote. I had some ideas in my mind, but I didn't have an ending in mind for it, and I just wrote the first chapter on maybe 2 pages, like this, like a dialogue and some details, and I had some drawings and sketchbooks. Let's see if I have that stuff. You're not in a hurry.
No, not at all. This is great. Yeah.
So maybe before starting to write chapters, I had sketches like this for Panther.
Yeah, cool. So just like little tidbits of stuff that you wanted to happen.
Yeah. And it came very fluidly, because this is an almost childish way of making a comic. It seemed like you just write the first chapter and then do page 1, page 2. I hadn't worked like that since young adulthood. I'd mostly done, I'm going to work on this now, but this still needs to ripen. And no, this was just, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I got stuck horribly. At around page 80, I got totally stuck. And then I had some other stuff going on, like the drugs didn't work anymore. And that's, I had to, so after having done 80 pages in 6 months, everything stopped for 1.5 years, and then I had to do like the last 40 pages, and that must have influenced what the book is like. I think there's some kind of it loses breath or life, some kind of life goes out of it, and maybe that's good even. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I didn't notice it that there was a gap in between. Okay,
that's interesting to me. Yeah.
1.5 years. Yeah, that's a long time to.
Yeah, if you've done 2/3 of the book in 6 months, and then this big gap.
Yeah. But I feel that's what sometimes happens if you don't plan ahead. I mean, it's really frustrating to plan ahead, but then this exactly happens. You run out of steam.
Yeah.
In the middle of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I did need some more a little more railroad than that.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a really, but that was, I mean, it was the book that I heard about you from, you know, that I thought was like the big sort of, the thing that was getting pushed the most, that got on like the best comics of the year list and so on. That was, I mean, am I wrong, or was that like your big break in comics internationally?
Where I was at, it didn't feel like such a sudden jump. I guess maybe geographically it must have it's also very catchy and easy to remember. It's called Panther. There's a panther on the cover, and it's not easy to. It's catchy, but I can't remember it changing everything suddenly. I guess inside Belgium and France, I was at some specific point already. So, and because I was still there, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, exactly. I think for people who read comics in English, this was like the big one. Yeah. Because I knew about this stuff from French comic festivals, but when I would be ordering stuff from my shop, where people mostly read English, and I'd be reading, English language recommendations, like suddenly Panther just started popping up on all the best of the year lists.
Yes.
So I ordered it, and then everybody loved it, and then we ordered more of your books.
Yeah, it's also a book that no one seems to read it and just be they're either the ones who don't like it aggressively are angry because of what it does, and I understand. I'm on the fence about the book myself. I still wonder about it.
Yeah. No, I really like it. I really like this character, this sort of the way it walks the edge completely. You constantly have this like weird abusive vibe.
Mercilessly,
it's not anything bad. It's just
it pushes buttons very directly. It's it's working some kind of pendulum on how far do I go, and now I go back a bit, and I think it was on some worst off lists too,
And I love it when the other characters come out of the drawer. That's perfect. Like just shoddily made.
Yes. Yes, they didn't put the work in. The other characters just didn't work for it like Panther. They just stuck together like.
I love it. And I think I read that somewhere that like Panther was actually based on one of the characters that you used to do for your girlfriend, who liked you scaring her.
No, actually, she didn't even like it so much. It was. I mean, she was a tall, strong woman, so I don't want to create an awful image. But yes, she was very fun to frighten by playing some kind of silent psychopath. Or I mean, it always sounds horrible when I when I tell it, and maybe it was a bit. But and then one of the characters, I mean, I made a story out of it. So also when I played this, when it got too scary, I started giving them a bit of background story, a bit of. She started to like some of them. Well, yeah, the vibe is clearly there.
Which is exactly what Panther does, He charms you, and he goes too far, and then he goes back. It's like, it's fine, it's okay. I'm your cuddly friend.
Yes. I'm still very proud of the mechanism of the book. I'm unsure about what I did once I had this machine in my hand. That's another question, which I'm less sure of. I don't know the book works at something, but does it work at the good thing? I'm not sure.
It was definitely because like other books I feel have more normal people. This has like an abyss inside it.
Yes, this book has no breathing room. It's
perfect. What I was gonna ask you as well is, I always ask this because I think it's an interesting question. How do you survive? Do you get by just in your comics, or do you have to do like tons of illustration work? And if so, if you like the illustration work, so on.
Illustration work pays everything, but I'm very lucky. I can live off the part-time illustration work. Then and the comic books, they get me illustration work, and and I can be picky. So it's pretty good. And the fun thing about illustration is maybe the lower intensity, where I draw while listening to podcasts, or when you're in a lot of these cases, I'm imitating myself and I know how to do it. It's a bit of a relaxing Zen kind of thing. I listen to audiobooks and stuff.
Perfect. But what kind of stuff do you illustrate? Like novels or children's books? Probably not. Or
Well, I did. I just illustrate a re-edition of Peter Pan.
okay.
So that counts as illustrating a children's book, I guess. But the context for this was I was asked by Beehive Books to choose any book I wanted that is in the public domain, which is old enough that there's no more copyrights on it, and then illustrate it and then put it out in a fancy new edition. And I thought of Peter Pan right away, and then I thought, no, that's too hard because I love Peter Pan, and there's no way I can make the book better. So then I proposed Marco Polo, and then they were, it's too racist. And,
okay.
And I mean, Peter Pan is. There's also some racism in it because public domain, I guess. Old books.
Old books have racism.
Yeah, there's some problem with Redskins, but.
Okay, because of the Indians. Okay.
So I did end up illustrating it. I don't know if I did it honor, but yeah, it's still complicated because this is still an illustration project in which I didn't dare to give myself as much and give as much of my time as I do with a book which can take eternity. My last book, there's one page, like the fastest page in my last book took maybe 5 minutes, and because sometimes I have a page with just still silhouette, and then the longest one took me a whole month. So I'm never looking at the clock when I do the books. But other illustration work will be a poster for a festival or what did I do lately? I even did an illustration for pearl-based Japanese cosmetics not so long ago.
Interesting. Perfect. And what are you working on now?
So I just got out of doing the biggest drawing I did as an illustration job. I had to make a musical world map, which is 5 meters, 5 meters large, 1.5 meter high. It's a big job, and so this was a coronavirus lockdown. I was just doing this all day while listening to audiobooks about the sea and about seafarers and things like this, and I didn't notice anything was happening outside. So it's almost like just one day passed. And then I finished that, and now I'm back to writing on the next book, which I'm taking a lot more time on to write than I ever do normally. And now I do feel the days going by. Now I do notice suddenly the time started ticking again. I'm using my brain again, so something has to happen. In a day or two, we're gonna escape to the sea.
Nice. Okay. So you're allowed to like go around now in France. Okay, perfect.
Starting today. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah, this is just the first event here now today. The first event at this venue.
Such an honor. Well, tell everyone welcome back to life.
Welcome back to life.
Don't you have anything better to do?
Cool. Well, I think I want to give the audience a chance as well to ask you something. So I'm going to ask them if they have any questions.
With pleasure. Yes.
Ima kdo kakšno vprašanje za Brechta?
City of Belgium, ne? A je to inspirano iz Brusla? Pa če ja iz Brusla, iz katerih becirkov?
Okay, they're asking about, because the English title of La Rigole is the City of Belgium. So I read that mostly people say it's inspired by Paris, but is it also inspired by Brussels or?
Yeah.
It's
a bit of Ghent, a bit of Barcelona, a touch of Berlin. It's this European big city thing. It's definitely European. That's why for the American audience, I like to call it the City of Belgium. It's something to do with, in the time of George Bush, I remember Belgians thinking it funny that a lot of Americans didn't know if Belgium is the city and Brussels the. But you know, so I like to continue this confusion with the name of the book, but also because like Brussels is technically then the capital of Europe. I'm always pretending to be angry when I look at James Bond movies or other action movies that they never go to Brussels. They always go to, maybe they go to Amsterdam, Paris to London. They go to maybe the Polish countryside or whatever. They don't go to Brussels, and yeah, it just has no appeal.
I visited once, but I think there's a couple of other Flemish cities that appear in movies. Right?
There's like, in Bruges, but the whole joke of the movie is that they are in Bruges and that it sucks and they hate it. It's a ridiculous place to be.
But it works really well, you know, with the cathedral and the churches. I mean, it works as a city in which to set that story. Yeah.
Yes, it's a bit almost a bit lame. I think there's a tradition. There's a lot of there's a few Belgian movies and books that have Belgium in the title, as if Belgians themselves find it sort of comical to have this constructed nationality in the title. But, you know, when it's in different languages, I can just experiment with different kinds of titles and see that this one work better.
What's the Belgian title? I mean, the Flemish title?
The Flemish title is Het amusement, which means the amusement, or like the fun, and it's also something that you will say when you say "I'll see you next time." Het amusement means have a good time until we meet again.
Okay.
And then putting it on the cover of this book, which contains a lot of partying, but a lot of anxiety too. It gives it a sort of nice bittersweet taste, which is good for the book, I think.
Yeah, perfect. Še kakšno vprašanje za Brechta?
Was that the question? Yeah.
Lahko se po mojem nav slišal, tako da lahko.
Mene samo zanima, kako se odloči v bistvu za barvno shemo, če ima kakšne posebne postopke, a gre samo s feelingom, da se mi zdi, da ima včasih drugo barvno shemo, kakor, ne vem, valj cele knjige ali pa mislim, če ima kakšen princip.
Okay. It's a question about how you use colors, how you use how you choose a color scheme for the whole book, and how you then like go apart from it and do a page that has like a different scheme. What's the logic?
Only one of the books, only Panther, has something like a chosen color scheme in which the color has rules. As you noticed probably in Panther, there is only red and blue when Panther is not there, and then when he arrives with his yellow fur, he completes the palette, and then we can have all these colors, which is another perverse trick to make us maybe want him to come back.
And
then in the other books, I don't pick one color scheme, though sometimes I have these periods in my life where I start using a lot more of a certain kind of color, as I mentioned, pink and green in the making of, and there's a lot of red and blue, I guess, in the wrong place. Red and blue always works well. As you see, I'm drawing another red and blue thing there on the desk. The way I used to be very horrible with colors, but then at art school they made us do silk screens, where you have to build your image from a few color layers. So you take maybe 2 layers and you have to choose 2 colors, and this almost never goes wrong. It's hard to make something very ugly with this technique, because there's a logic to the way the colors work. Where they overlap, they create a third color, a darker one. So that's the first time I made things that looked good on the color aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
I spilled my water all over. I'm gonna maybe electrocute myself. Is it? I hope it's all disconnected.
Feel free to mop up if you need to. It's okay.
So those were the first ones that worked, which taught me that, okay, if you just choose two dominant colors, then you can start adding little spots of other colors inside it, and it will there still won't be any disasters, no horrible color clashes. And doing this through the years has made it more automatical, sometimes dangerously automatical, I think, where when it gets too easy, there's always a danger of losing some of the fire. But there's not a lot of, I mean, yes, I do think about the scene first, like should it be only red and black, for example, but I cannot pinpoint. This is different for every scene, so and then sometimes there are limitations, as for example, ever since The Wrong Place, I started using this method where the color of the characters corresponds to their texts, and this is a very helpful technique, which allows me more freedom, where it means that you can hear the voice of a person in a way, so you can recognize their voice off screen, off page also. So this does mean that I might have a yellow character, and that this means I have to work with one yellow thing, which means that the background is going to have to contrast enough with this character, or if the background is all yellow, the character will sort of disappear into it. So these are conscious. There's a lot of conscious choices.
Okay.
It's true.
But you don't plan it on the level of storyboard. Like when you do a storyboard, you don't write like, oh, this scene needs to be like really green.
Yeah, not so much. No, that's mostly when I started drawing, I think.
Okay. Cool. Še kakšno vprašanje? Aha, Gašper?
Čisto tako osnovno, pa mogoče malo dolgočasno, ampak čisto me zanima, kako recimo, kadar naj si bo to stran stripa ali pa ena ilustracija, kako je pravzaprav gradivo po fazah od risba, potem domnevam mogoče kakšen lightbox verjetno in potem je vse pravzaprav tehnike, no.
Okay, razumem.
Ali samo akvarela, ali potem so še kakšni dodatki.
Okay. Interestingly, another question about planning. I think we're all very interested about how, because your stuff looks so spontaneous. Yeah, I guess everybody's wondering how much you plan. Does this mean how you sort of construct an illustration, a page, or anything? Do you do like stuff with the pencil at first and then go into colors, or do you just go straight in and then see what happens while you're painting and drawing?
Yeah, I will probably have a composition sketch somewhere. For example, for the thing I was drawing tonight, I have this sketch here like this. So I know basically where most of the important elements are. And then on the page, so the special trick is I don't use a pencil sketch. You know, I don't have outlines before I start applying paint.
Okay.
Which means I start out very light and with a bit of fear. I start with maybe a light pink or a light yellow, and I start making the composition. When I do a comic page, a comic page where there are characters talking to each other, I will often have these little blurry spots where the characters are going to be. Like, oh, there are going to be 12 of them on the whole page, and they're going to be like this, thump, 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 thump. And then I also, in this case, where I have these characters moving on a white background, I probably then will draw another little spot where they're gonna stand on the floor. The little shade spots automatically. Before I draw the shade on the floor before I start doing the character. And I start detailing from there. But because none of this gets gummed away, you can always, except if it's covered with a darker color, or maybe with a covering color like a gouache. You will always still see the first traits. I can show a page. This also means that I don't know before I start how detailed a character needs to be. I will notice this during. So this is from the last book. So, for example, these are the same two characters, this and this, and this. But at the beginning, I don't know that he's not gonna have his black costume here. I feel this while I'm drawing, that we understand, we see him, we recognize him. He doesn't need to have a black costume. So we stop there before we kill the drawing. Before we because in theory, every new thing you add to a drawing takes attention away from what is already there. So that's the concept of knowing when to stop. This does not have to be a very frightening thing, like, oh, I'll stop right away. Though it can be, but I tend to go on a long time before I finally stop. But it does mean that when something is more interesting in its brutal shape, in its I will leave it like this when I feel we don't need to know more about this detail.
Perfect. That's a very sort of like a painter type of approach. I really like that because I studied painting, but I used to do comics before I started painting, and then it was like a real relief when you went into the painting because you didn't have to, with proper comics it was always like really detailed sketches and then like very nice lines and so on. And with painting it was great because you could just do the outlines and then go into details. That was.
I think what kills the fun with comics for some people is probably doing the same drawing 3 times every time with a pencil, with ink, and with color. This is what I often say, and I don't know if it's really true, but I think so, is that the risk is that you do it 3 times badly, because you do the pencil sketch and you think, oh, this is not definite, I can gum this, so I don't have to do it well. And then you do the ink and it's like, well, the ink is just like a factory work. No, I'm just following the pencil now. And then you have this whole finished drawing, then I just have to fill it in now, and then I'm done and I can watch a movie. So I only draw it once, more or less.
Oh, do you sometimes like redo a page if you think you've done a really crappy job and
But thank God this is not so often that I think it, and sometimes I would think like, well, I don't know. Like if something's a bit weird, I might let it lie a bit, and then I might look at it again and think, no, this actually works. Also, like, this book is 300 pages. We can have we can have this quiet moment or this uglier moment.
Yeah, I didn't mean so much like if there's a mistake, because I think you sort of like build these little mistakes and splotches into the work, which is great. I thought like if maybe you find out it doesn't work with the whole flow, that it disrupts the fabric of the book or something.
I don't have to get it out yet. So then I have some deleted scenes.
You can put them like on extra, like the DVD extras.
So I always I always start with the storyboards, because I don't want to have to do paintings. I don't want to have to do 3 times more paintings than necessary.
So
but
cut them out in editing. Perfect. Še kakšno vprašanje? Mateja? Mislim, da to sem pa že bral. But the question is whether you do everything by hand and then just scan it in, huh? cool. Nothing is like touched up in Photoshop or some blotches removed or anything like that.
Oh yeah, well, I do tend to because in the black colors, the black sometimes reflect. I draw them and I want them to be pure black ink when they're printed. Sometimes ink will reflect the light of the scanner a bit, or it will be unequal, and I might make the darks darker and the white of the page, which is a bit creamy because of the paper color, I will make it whiter. And also remove any hairs or dust
of course.
that really looks like hair. I think there's still a lot of hair and dust in my comics, but when I see it, I try to. No one needs this.
Perfect. Kritično vprašanje? Aha. Yeah, this is, you know, about those, like sometimes, okay, I can imagine you do the whole thing by hand if it's just a complete painting, but for instance, like in Panther, you know, where you have like individual parts that you could basically do one by one and then collage them together. You also do those, I mean, those are actually the text, the position of the drawings, you don't change it.
Sometimes when I have to edit something, because of the flow of the story, and there's a way to do it by replacing drawings in Photoshop, I might remix a bit. But basically, a Panther page will be drawn the way it's going to be, always without the text, because I have to do the text separately because it's going to be in several languages.
Oh yeah, okay.
So and this is actually a frustration because I think it limits my expression with the text.
But how do you do the text separately? Do you do it like on a transparent layer, or?
I've been doing it with a graphic tablet on the computer. So I have been writing with a computer pen because of the easier edits, and it looks basically handwritten.
Okay.
But for the text, this works. But I have a little frustration and jealousy of people who letter write on the page, but I don't want the hassle of it having to be. You can hardly ever imitate this in the other languages afterward, but a real. It would be a more pure version of this if I also, with the same brush, lettered everything in the same gesture. But that's where there starts to be a lot of technical problems if I do that.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, like with Panther, there wouldn't, because you could just erase it because it's the white background. But with stuff where you have background,
Yes. But often the text is going to be slightly over something and mix up a bit with the background color, and I have to avoid getting in problems like that. But I remember teaching once. I taught illustration for a few months, and I had this brilliant student, and she made these wonderful graphic novel pages, extremely wild, with pasted letters and or with the Tipex, and all very spontaneous and in the moment. And she either did, I can't remember, she did it in Dutch or in a broken English, but I was like, I can't permit myself this, but I'm jealous of this pure graphic novel expression. This because of course there's a lot of expressive expressive potential to the text that you might lose, that you're gonna lose if you're doing it afterwards on a computer as a big job.
Yeah, and you can think about it like in terms of composition. Otherwise, you could completely build it into
the. I can think of there's this color and this size of it, and it is an element that participates.
But like for the other books in the other languages, you don't do like all of the texts on your own by hand.
with the years, I try to ask some editors to please letter it themselves. Like, please hire someone. There are some languages I would make too many mistakes in Polish or in Spanish, so I can't do it. It's possible that I letter the Spanish one, but when you have to do this a year or 2 or 3 years after you finish the book, there's no love for this job. It's not fun.
I can imagine. Cool. Imamo še kakšno vprašanje? Ne? Kdo rekel ja? Ne. Okay, I'm just checking with the audience. Okay, I think we'll let you go. We held you up for a whole hour, so it was really great to talk to you. I want to show you the audience as well, because
yes,
it's not
please.
just staring at me the whole time.
Which was great. I mean, no risks. Oh, I'm having some light in my eyes. Thank you. Hello.
You can also see it's a beautiful space here. I told you we got a great venue.
It looks like I get a few lanterns, a bit of leaves behind you there.
Yeah, exactly.
People actually showed up. You're doing a great job with the bookshop.
Nice. Yes, yeah. We do it every month, and it's always really nice. And it's great because this is like it's actually like an old farmhouse that used to. I think that one of the great first Slovenian poets was born in, and then there's like cultural programs here all the time,
wow.
On a little stage. It's great.
That's so nice. That's touching. Even it's beautiful to imagine you guys there.
Good. We'll invite you. Like we have a festival. We'll invite you sometimes.
Also, no one is wearing a mask.
No, I don't think so. Because we're out in the open and we're keeping the distance. It's great.
Sure. You all wash. I can show you the sunset here if you like.
Yeah.
No. Sunsets never really work well on
the screen. Yeah.
Digital, but
exactly. Yeah, it just erases them. But great. Paris. Nice.
Yeah, that's why I went and lived here. I have this. Because I have to sit in the home all the time, I want to see something, everything, all the time.
Yeah. I used to work in this studio that had no view, that was just like on the ground floor. And it worked for a couple of years. It was like a burrow,
Yeah, like you have to create a world in your mind, maybe, so it might have worked.
But after a while now, I just need the view all the time. You get so fed up. Perfect. Which part of Paris is this?
The northeast, the thing that is most known in my neighborhood here, it's a kilometer away from Père Lachaise, the famous cemetery. Perhaps it's on a hill, and I'm on one of the highest buildings on a high hill. So
that's a nice part of Paris. I know that part, like around Père Lachaise, and then
it's very nice.
Intervju, and then that. Yeah, perfect. Okay, well. Brecht, it was really great chatting with you.
This was very nice, Isa.
And
people asked a lot of questions. I'm often at these meetings where there's the moment of anyone has a question, and everybody will hesitate and no one will say anything. But I don't know if it's your hosting or that I'm hidden behind the screen, or that they know I'm so far away. It's nice to have a lot of good questions.
So actually, like this Skype interviews work really well. They're actually maybe more intimate than live ones.
You can see why. Yeah, less of a performance feel. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
I hope to come to your bookshop one day.
Okay, you should.
Or festival, or
We'll try to invite you, and you'll see if you have time.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Brecht.
Thank you. This was a pleasure. Thanks, everyone. And now there will be the moment of looking for the red button, and
exactly.
and then it will freeze on this angry face.